Alrighty, welcome to the program. It's Friday. What a short week this has been, right? Holiday in the middle of the week kind of breaks things up just a little bit. Mayor John Mitchell is in with us this afternoon because, we weren't working on Wednesday, so.
Yeah. I'm totally thrown off.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's okay. We've done Friday shows before.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good one.
Is it really? You got some good stuff to share with us? Or?
No, not really. I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
I don't either.
But I'm just optimistic.
Well, it's middle of a holiday week. A lot of folks are off this week.
A lot of folks are off this week, and they lucked out with the weather. With the exception of today, it's been pretty nice.
Yeah.
And in true New England fashion, we've people have been complaining that it's too hot.
Not me.
Because we can't complain that it's too cold. We complain.
Right.
But summer's here.
Yeah. Not this little boy. I love this stuff.
Oh, I do too. I'm the same way. I like the heat. Yeah.
Yep, like it. And unfortunately, though, we've just got a special marine weather statement just came in from the National Weather Service from about 11:56 until about 1:30. It looks like some storms are going to be moving through the area, and that has forced the cancellation of the first summer waterfront concert.
Yeah, it's supposed to get pretty stormy tonight, so
Been waiting all year for this, Mayor. You couldn't arrange this weather for tomorrow or something?
I don't think it's a cancellation; it's a postponement.
Postponement to another day.
So
what if they just add another Friday at the end of the season? Yeah.
So but we'll just have to wait. Mm-hmm. There will be one next week.
There will be one next week.
6:00, Pier 3, Friday. It's all good.
Good crowd for the fireworks on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a really big crowd. I was watched them at the Whaling Museum. There were a lot of people at the Whaling Museum, and then I walked out, and boy, oh boy, the streets were packed. Yeah, which is great to see. Yeah, Hawthorne Medical sponsored it. It was the primary sponsor, and we appreciate their support. But it went off really well. They actually, so people might be wondering, well, they were delayed a little bit. And it's true. They actually, I can't explain the meteorological phenomenon that led to it being a little bit brighter at 9 o'clock than they had anticipated. I don't know if it had to do with the dry weather or what, but it was. And the fireworks technician called Dagny Ashley, our marketing and tourism director, and said, "Hey, can we wait 10 minutes?" Because by then it'll get a little bit darker, and the fireworks will be a little more vibrant by contrast, right? So I held off, which kind of makes me squirm a little bit, because people are have got their kids and they're all set up, and so we held off for about 10 minutes, and it worked well.
Well, we had one a couple of years back. I don't remember if it was during your time or whether...
that was during my time.
It was like an hour late, and everybody left, including me, left. And then as we're driving
not everybody left, but everybody was frustrated, right? Yeah. And, we didn't hire that company again. Yeah. Yeah, that one was an hour late. That was not good.
Yeah. We always hang right outside of the landing.
That's
a good
spot.
We go there early. We get there early, get a nice spot, and we always meet friends there. So we watch, the people come and watch the traffic go by, and a good viewing spot. And my wife sat there with her watch and said, last year they went off precisely at 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Watch. So she's like, well, it's 9:01. Well, 9:02.
Yeah.
Well, 9:03.
Yeah. So now you know the rest of the story.
So now we know the rest of the story. Yeah. So
but the crowd was good on the water side of JFK Boulevard. There were a lot of people on the State Pier, and
well, actually, you couldn't get onto the pier, right?
I think on the edge of it
you could get on the edge. Yeah,
but it wasn't like in years past where they let a lot of people on. There's been a change in management over there, but it worked. It worked out well, and all the shops and restaurants, all the restaurants said they were full, which is what we want to see. Yeah,
that's good news. Yeah, absolutely. So now we've got the parade tomorrow.
Got the parade tomorrow. Get out there. Cape Verdean Recognition Parade will be tomorrow, and it looks like the weather's going to cooperate. We're going to get a lot of rain today, but the rain will pass by, and there
just
we
like
go.
The parade.
Just like it'll be a great day for a parade tomorrow, and it won't be as hot, so that'll be good.
Yeah, humidity levels are supposed to be less as well.
Yeah, and by the way, as part there were lots of other events around that, but there's the basketball tournament at Monty Park that'll happen right after the parade. And that's a long-standing tradition. Michael Consaccio has been doing that for a number of years now, does a great job. And I encourage people to go because there's been a tradition of really high-level street basketball being played there in that tournament. So historically they've gotten traveling teams from big cities like Boston and New York and others to play the New Bedford guys, and the New Bedford guys have more than held up over the years. And so if you want to see some real, intense and skillful basketball being played on a playground, check that out as well. And then, of course, on Saturday there's also Summerfest right down the street. So I suspect there will be a big hive of activity in and around the downtown on Saturday, which is tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
So that'll be worth checking out.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to have the fireworks and then the 4th of July festival that we associate with the 4th of July, Summerfest. Yeah, it's kind of weird to have them reverse this time, but so that's going on. Do they still do the Cape Verdean Recognition Festival? It's been a few years since I've had the Saturday available to partake.
Yeah, it happened for a few years. They haven't been doing it. I mean, the parade is a big to-do. I mean,
absolutely.
That is a major event, and I think it is actually the longest of the city parades, of the regular city parades. Yeah, but it's always a good turnout. It feels like every year it's really hot. The parade, so maybe tomorrow will be an exception, but. It's really well attended, great food, lots of real good energy around that, and all along the parade route. And so I just encourage people to come on out. It's the unofficial 4th of July parade as well for the city. So it's good stuff.
And then, of course, as we mentioned, Summerfest, the Folk Festival, as it's known. That gets a lot of good press, a lot of good.
Yeah, geez, I'm sorry, I misspoke. There are probably people listening out there and they're saying, "Hey, Mayor, the name was changed a couple of years ago." Yeah, so the Folk Festival, but all the same, it's the acts there are by and large of the same type. It is of all the events that we throw or are thrown in the city over the course of the year, the Folk Fest, formerly Summerfest, brings in more people from out of the city than everything else except the feast. So you'd expect that with the feast because it's so big, but the Folk Festival actually draws in a lot of non-residents into the city, which is good because they spend money in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything's going to be open this weekend, right? So folks can go.
Yeah. If I have anything to do with it, I'll encourage those, bang on the doors of the shops and say, come on, guys, open it up.
All right, so we had the awarding of the first retail license for marijuana this week. I think it was this week or last week. My weeks were running into
Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts, yeah. So we're still waiting here. So I guess we've got one retail license handed out in Massachusetts so far, approved, and now we're still waiting here. We're still. Last I spoke to you about this, I guess your administration and the city council were still trying to put together an ordinance. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of an update since I think we last talked about it 2 weeks ago. There's the city council and my administration are going through in some detail a proposed zoning ordinance that would effectively zone retailers into industrial areas of the city away from neighborhoods, and that there would be, on top of that, there would be these buffer zones which would restrict the on top of the industrial zoning the placement of these stores within a certain distance of things like churches and schools and whatnot. So again, it's in the same vein we've talked about before. We really would like to see this new industry done responsibly here in the city, and so what we're doing here is really not that much different from the way that it's rolling out in other cities across the state. Some, we don't. We want to make sure that look, these businesses are now legal businesses or will be in Massachusetts, and that there's been a desire of folks here in New Bedford to have some of them here, but there's also been a decided expression from many quarters that they not disrupt neighborhood life in the city, and so we want to be really careful about that. So it's been a good process and very constructive with the city council, and I would think that in the next few weeks we'll see something emerge.
We got what, about 2 months? Our moratorium expires when, September?
In September, yeah.
So we got about 2 months to get something together. Yeah, so we should be able to get it through in that.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Again, the discussions have gone well. I haven't. The really, honestly, not a lot of that kind of work happened this week. It's like everybody's been slacking, but it's hard to get people together on the week of the 4th, as you can imagine. So there isn't much to update folks on, except to say that I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll start to see something in the way of of an ordinance.
So July 1st came and went, and ABC kept on honoring its contract with the recyclables.
It did, and it as it was required under the contract, it executed its performance bond, which is basically an insurance policy against they're not complying with the contract. So, and the performance bond is in the amount of whatever is $4 million plus, which is what the city pays every year for their services. So, so the city will be covered in that way. They're still dealing with the so-called China sword policy, which is the Chinese national policy that has required recyclers that wish to export into China a certain level of contamination or a ceiling on contamination in the recycling materials, and so that's made things a little trickier for lots of recyclers in the United States. They're looking for other markets now to sell to.
So when last we checked in on this issue, before I went on vacation, we were talking about your administration attempting to maybe reach some sort of agreement with ABC, but you wanted ABC to open their books a little bit more and show a need.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. Look, our door, my door remains open, and again, I think the parties have exchanged some letters. The lawyers have exchanged letters in the last couple of weeks, sort of staking out the parties' mutual positions. ABC's on the one hand, the city's on the other. And look, we'll if there's a need to work it out, we'll do that. If it makes more sense just to keep doing business as usual, then in which ABC picks up trash and recycling, then we'll continue on with that.
So, but business.
But always, I mean, it's always the question. Always is for me, what's in the city's best interest.
Business as usual has meant since last November of getting an amended bill from them, or a bill from them, right? So, I mean, are you still?
Well, no, that's not. That's their business.
That's
version of business as usual. It's not provided for in the contract.
Are those bills still piling up in your mailbox, or what?
Not in my mailbox, but I hear they're still sending them. So until someone can show me where the city is, where in the contract the city is required to pay those bills, then we'll continue to do what we do year in and year out with ABC, which is to pay them the flat fee that's provided for in the contract.
So is this thing likely to go to court, do you think?
Hard to know. But I think our position's pretty well founded. And, again, it's my job to make sure that important city services are provided to the residents of the city at a price that's affordable. And we have a contract that we signed with ABC. And, again, ABC's a New Bedford company. Our preference would be to keep ABC right in place, and but we also can't, with any given vendor say, what, I'm sorry that your costs have gone up. Here's a few more bucks for your troubles. We don't operate that way.
So since we met last, George Rogers has passed away.
Indeed, yeah.
Former mayor.
Yeah, I mean, George is. George made an impression. I think that's fair to say. And his career, I think everybody understands, was one that had its ups and downs. And we honor him because we honor the offices that he held. And I think it's fair to say that George was somebody who cared deeply about the city. He cared. He was a talented guy. He was very knowledgeable, and about a host of policy issues. was also, exceptional when it came to things like parliamentary procedure and attention to detail, and he brought a number of interesting ideas to the table. So it's always sad to see something like that happen. George has certainly been a fixture on the stage of city politics even before I was born. So I mean, it's like everybody's collective memory. People don't remember a time. Many folks in the city don't remember a time before George Rogers was on the political scene. So certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and I think George is. I hope that he's remembered as somebody who worked hard for the city, and that in the end of the day, you can't overlook some of the things he did, but also I hope that everybody can remember some of the positive things he accomplished.
It's not often that you see somebody achieve the political success that George Rogers did. I mean, state senate, state representative, mayor of the city council, and still after everything came back recently and wanted to serve
ran for
again.
School committee not too long ago.
So I mean, you don't generally see that. I mean, the voters obviously had a great deal of confidence in Rogers, even though he did have some problems along the way.
Yeah, I mean, people people are forgiving, I think, and I think people understood that George was capable, and that George did want the best for the city. And I think other people, folks also understood that, that it came with, a catch, which was, George did have that past that certainly undermined his credibility. But look, I mean, I hope that, like I said, I hope that he's remembered for the positive things that he did, and then it's not to erase some of the negative things. It's just to say that in his passing, I hope that we can, have as positive an outlook on his legacy and as we reasonably can.
Well, in terms of the voc ed thing, I mean, he served 10 months. 14-month sentence, I think it was, or
well, he did.
Maybe it's a 2-year sentence. So,
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think it was a 2-year sentence, and he wound up serving 10 months of it. But I mean, so he did his penance, right? I mean, he paid his price, and then was reelected almost from jail to go back and serve in government. So I guess when somebody does do their penance, they're
and I think that's the way they looked at it. It's just obviously it's that's some what he was convicted of doing was a serious abuse of power, and we hold our public officials to a higher standard for good reason. And so there's certainly there were plenty of people in the city, including relatives of mine who were thought would go to his defense. From time to time, I can remember having certainly discussions with my grandparents about George Rogers over the years, but it's times have changed as well, Barry. I think there's what was once regarded as a transgression, what people consider transgressions by public officials has in some ways become stricter, right? I think that's we have to take stock of that, but again, by and large, 50 years in public life in the city, 50 plus, probably more like 60 years in public life in the city is a lot, and he made some really important contributions along the way, and I hope that he's not remembered just for the negative things.
So it's not likely we'll propose that he gets a street named after him or something.
Let's let time pass before those decisions are made.
Maybe the elevator at City Hall.
Maybe the elevator.
When we get the new elevator. Name of the George Rogers Memorial Elevator. Right? Yeah. All right, I'm going to take a break. Let me do that, and we're going to come back. 508-996-0500 if you got a call for the mayor, and we'll take some calls, got some other issues to talk about, and we'll do that as soon as we continue right here on 1420 WBSM. We'll be right back.
Hey, so
All right, welcome back to the program. 508-996-0500 is our number. It's 12:31. It's Friday afternoon, and we have Mayor Mitchell with us. It's Midweek with the mayor.
You got to say something today, Barry, that stirs up some calls.
Okay. What do you want to say?
What can I say? Let me say something controversial. If it comes to me before the end of the show, I'll just blurt it out.
All right, that'd be neat.
Yeah.
There was once a Saturday Night Live skit about a talk radio thing, and they couldn't get any callers, so the guy was like, let's talk about dead puppies. And the phones lit up. Yeah. But I mean, there is a number.
Where's Big Al when you need him?
Big Al called the other day about something. I can't recall what it was, but there are actually a number of things going on.
Yep.
For example, we are the last state in the country that doesn't have a budget yet.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that impact you in terms of anticipating what money you're going to get in? I mean, I think it's fairly well decided how much we'll get in terms of state aid and education aid. And
yeah, I mean, there's a difference between the House and Senate. Versions. The Senate version's a lot more generous, I think. It has an effect. It's only July 6th, so we're 6 days into the new fiscal year. So at this point, no, it's not a big deal. But as it drags on, it'll be a big deal.
At what point does it become a big deal? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month?
Yeah, I mean, so we budget fairly conservatively when it comes to state aid. So we have assumed that what we'll get is what the House budget proposes, which is less than what the Senate budget bill proposes on things like school aid as well as unrestricted government aid. So if it turns out to be more, then we'll have some more money to spend, especially in the school system, which will be a good thing. I don't know. I do wonder how sustainable the state budget is. The state's having some problems itself with healthcare, its healthcare costs, and it's unclear whether in an election year for state officials whether they are about to make some tough choices to rein in healthcare costs. I hope they do, but that their approach to that issue may have a bearing on next year's budget and the budget thereafter. And so, the state also had depleted its rainy day fund, its stabilization fund, as we would call it here in the city. And so there's a need also there for the state to replenish its cushion in effect. So we'll see. Inflation is starting to creep up a little bit nationally, and that might have some effect on the economy as well. So, remains to be seen. What we in New Bedford try to take these things, take a very conservative approach to budgeting, and so if we get more money in, great. If not, then no harm.
So with the stabilization account being depleted on the state level, obviously our stabilization account is independent of that, and we've got a fairly solid one here in New Bedford. But does that impact
never enough? I mean, it's better than it has been historically,
right?
Yeah.
But does that the state? I mean, does the fact that the states has been depleted, does that impact us? I mean, generally the bonding companies look at that and they say, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
So does that impact us? Would that have any impact on our bond rating in any way? Or?
A little bit. I mean, certain of our bonds in general, the city's bonds are guaranteed by the state, and that helps us because the state's bond rating is actually better than ours and better than really just about all the cities in Massachusetts. So if the state's bond rating drops, if the state is downgraded as it was a year or so ago because of the depletion of the rainy day fund, then it can make our borrowing a little more expensive.
All right. So in terms of healthcare, the cost of healthcare on the state level is out of control. There's no question about that. How does that?
Definitely going up. Yeah.
So here on the local level, you've been trying to get the city council to approve some changes in the way that we charge for healthcare here and what we offer, and they've been very reluctant to do so. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any change coming anytime soon.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, it's hard to say. We certainly have continued to talk to the unions about the issue. And there have been some fluctuations over the last year or so in healthcare costs. In the long term, it's all going up. In the short term, there may be some fluctuations along the way, and so we're trying to track that as best we can and project future costs. It is, when you put it all together, it's it's something that we're going to have to deal with, and whether we deal with it now or we deal with it at some point in the future, better to do it sooner rather than later, and we'll continue to talk to the unions about how we can manage those costs responsibly.
We're going to be speaking in the next hour with Rob Mellion, is going to be coming in studio. He, former president and CEO of the Fall River Area Chamber of Commerce. He now represents the Mass Package Store Association as their executive director and their general counsel. We're going to talk about what was dubbed the grand bargain, and this was a bunch of different issues that were kind of linked together, maybe to try to offset or a preemptive strike against a couple of ballot questions that were coming up. One was on the minimum wage, to raise the minimum to $15 an hour. Another was for a paid medical and family leave. And another one dealt with the state sales tax free weekend. So all of this was signed by Governor Baker just about 2 weeks ago now. When we talk about the Paid Medical and Family Leave Act, this involves a payroll tax, from what I understand, on employees, and then employers have to contribute part of that. How does that impact the city? I mean, that's an additional contribution that the city has to put in for each employee.
It's hard. We haven't added up the impact yet, but it'll impose a cost on the city. It'll impose a cost on small businesses of a certain size as well. I think the complaint that that you alluded to, coming from the chambers of commerce and the various chambers of commerce south of Boston, including our own right here in New Bedford, has to do with the ballot petition procedure in Massachusetts. The procedure more or less is based in the state constitution, but in practice, it has allowed for all sorts of very discrete policy questions to go on the ballot before voters. Oftentimes, and so voters are oftentimes, asked to decide things based on not a whole lot of information on matters that are best left to the legislators who are voted in and paid to actually do the homework necessary to make sound policy decisions. And so as a result, and by the way, the rationale for having this petition procedure mechanism in the state constitution, in theory, is about making state government more democratic, right? The idea is you push more power to the people and let them decide things at the ballot box, but in reality, it's in effect it's less democratic, because the folks that are able to get these ballot measures on these petitions on the ballot are oftentimes very well-heeled special interests who have both liberal or and conservative, and who are funded oftentimes by out-of-state sources, who have a nationwide agenda. And people, if you're walking into the voting booth, it's very hard to know how to vote. I find it hard sometimes to make sense of it all, and I think it has to change. These are decisions that I think are oftentimes best left to our elected legislators, and we have an accountability mechanism there. If our legislators vote in a way that we find disagreeable or objectionable, then we can vote them out of office. But take for example the recreational marijuana question. I think a lot of people voted on that because they felt that the consumption of marijuana should be legalized. That had been a growing sentiment for a number of years. But when you look at that ballot question, it was several pages long, thousands of words, and baked into that ballot measure were all kinds of provisions about where dispensaries can go and what can be served and how many you can have, and all kinds of just policy decisions that were baked into this yes or no question, put to voters without realistically the giving them the ability to really sort through it. So I don't blame. I mean, it's not. I'm not taking a position on any of the issues. I mean, I have my own opinions about the various issues that were the subject of these ballot petitions this year, but I think the process is all screwed up, and it really needs to be revisited.
So the paid medical and family leave, that will be an impact on the budget. I don't think
it'll be a massive impact, but it's it'll cost something.
Yeah. What about the minimum wage increase? Do we start anybody at minimum wage in New Bedford?
Oh, we do. So there will be a bump there. I mean, here's the thing with minimum wage. So
the thing with these things is they all add up, right?
They do indeed. So there'll be a cost there. We've raised the bottom level of our wage scale over the last year, but I think there's still some people who are starting. There are some people who start below 15, so there'll be a bump there. That won't be a huge cost to the city. I do worry about small businesses that have to absorb that, and I do question whether it makes. I'm in principle, I support having a minimum wage, and having a minimum wage in the state that's actually higher than the federal wage to account for the differences in cost of living in the various regions of the country. But by the same token, though, at some point we have to, I think, as a state, to consider what other states have done with their minimum wages, and that is to, have different rates depending based on geography. In other words, $15 an hour in New Bedford is very different from $15 an hour in downtown Boston. $15 an hour in downtown Boston is very different from $15 an hour in Pittsfield, Mass. Right, way out west. And at some point, I think there has to be some accounting for the differences in wealth across regions of Massachusetts and cost of living. The state of Oregon a few years ago passed a minimum wage bill that had different minimum wages across the state. So, like in Portland, there was the highest minimum wage, and in rural Oregon and in farming communities, there was a much significantly lower one. I think
because the cost of living is less.
Yeah, and I think we should give that at least some thought. Maybe it's administratively unworkable, but maybe it isn't. But I think we at least have to give it some consideration.
There's a fairness issue here too. If you've got somebody on the city payroll, or maybe working at McDonald's or Walmart or whatever, that's worked their way up to $15 an hour, now all of a sudden everybody's, on parity with them. That's you kind of.
Well, there's that as well. We have to worry. One thing you worry about is a drop in labor in the number of available jobs, right? Especially for summer jobs too, for students. I mean, you can imagine. Like, think of just pick like an ice cream shop, right, where kids work in the summertime. If their wages are going from $11 an hour, $10 an hour up to $15, all of a sudden the owner of that ice cream shop might say, "I'm not sure I can afford all you kids this summer."
Right.
So there are people who have to, bear that imposition.
And some of the bigger employers, Walmart and McDonald's, and those are replacing workers with machines.
But these are all what we're bouncing around right now, Barry, are all legitimate questions that are better left to legislators and not just put on a ballot to say yes or no. $15 or yes or no. That's what happens with these ballot initiatives, these referenda. You're left with this binary choice, yes or no, 15, and that's why we pay legislators to do their job, so they can sort these things out. And if they don't do a good job, then we have an opportunity to vote for somebody else.
So what Rick Kidder of the chamber here in New Bedford is calling for, he's saying the system is basically broken, and he's calling for some change to the Constitution, state Constitution, to try to fix this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it has to be looked at. There have been both conservative as well as liberal ballot initiatives that have been put before voters in the state over the last few years, ranging from drug legalization to cutting the state, eliminating the state income tax, to giving people universal health care, to gay marriage issues. All the stuff that is better left to the folks that
to the professionals, right?
Yeah, but people who are
actually
get paid for
it.
We elect. There's why am I drawing a blank on the British parliamentarian and political? Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke. Legislators like to quote Edmund Burke often, but appropriately. And Edmund Burke was an 18th century member of Parliament in England. Said what legislators owe their constituents is judgment. Right. In other words, I'm not there. If you're elected to the state legislature, you're not there just to say yes to whatever the constituents want. It's not to do your own thing. It's to weigh it all and come up with an appropriate position, whatever the issue, and based on your knowledge and experience. And so that's why, and sometimes their judgment fails them, and that's why we have the ability to hold them accountable through the ballot box. But at least they're in a better position, to sort through these things and to discuss them and hammer their way, work their way through the issues, as opposed to just putting these binary choices on the ballot. It's never made any sense to me.
All right, we've got a bunch of callers on the line. We're going to do that next. I've got a couple other questions I want to ask you about, too. But let's get a very quick break in. We'll come back, take a couple of calls, and we'll chat some more right after this at 1420 WBSM. And we are back. Mayor Mitchell is with us on this Friday afternoon. Rob Mellion from the Massachusetts Package Store Association of Package Stores. He, in the event, is the executive director and the legal counsel. After the 1 o'clock news, we're going to talk more about the grand bargain. Right now, though, let's get to your calls. 508-996-0500. And you are next. Thanks for waiting on WBSM.
Hello, Barry. Hello, Mayor Mitchell.
Hi, Donna.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Can I ask a question, sir?
Of course.
When can I meet the new superintendent that you hired? I have some questions. How's he going to run New Bedford in another community?
Wait, what was the question?
She wants to meet the new super.
Okay, yeah, we can. Yeah, well, I'll pass it along, Donna.
He'll be at the next school committee meeting,
He'll be
right?
at the next. Yeah, he'll be there.
Okay, but the question is, how's he going to run New Bedford in another community? New Bedford has a lot of problems, and it has to be addressed.
How's he going to run another community?
Yeah, I guess he runs Randolph, our school department.
He's all done with Randolph.
Oh,
As
okay.
of last week, he finished there, and this week he started here.
Okay, Mitchell, you need to get a media outlet out and let these people know, because people are thinking that he's doing 2 communities. My goodness. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks for your call, Don. Appreciate it. 508-996-0500. You're up next on WBSM. Thanks for hanging on.
No problem.
Hey, Al.
Al, we've been waiting for you.
I know you were, because I heard both of you talking about me, so that was my cue to call you guys.
So what's broken, Al?
Well, I'll tell you what's really broken. These lights on 18 that are not working.
Tell me where, Al.
Well, it's right on Route 18 where they're doing that construction.
Oh, down there. Okay. Well, maybe they have to shut the lights off to to install other lights. I don't know.
Well,
but tell me where, and I'll have someone reach out to them.
Okay, southbound 18, northbound 18, not working at all.
Well,
whereabouts?
On 18.
No, but like how far down?
From
where the gas station is? Where the gas station is?
From Cove Street all the way to Potomska Street.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's my observation. I went and sat at the library to watch for the fireworks. I didn't get really to see all the fireworks because they were low. They didn't go up in the sky like they should. They were low fireworks versus the fireworks going up in the sky.
We ordered low fireworks. You didn't like them?
Well,
I'm kidding.
But the idea is they didn't go up high enough.
Shoot them off from the Elm Street garage. Didn't they do that in the past? Shoot them off from the...
I think one time, yeah. I don't know if we did that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
But the fact is, here's my point. A lot of people walked down to the dike wall to see the fireworks. And there was a lot of people crossing where Route 18 is. Where it's dark there, those people that drive up and down 18, they drive like real idiots. So those lights need to be energized as soon as possible.
Okay. All right, Al, let me hold you there because I'm going to get another one in. 508-996-0500. You're up next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I just have a couple of, 3 or 4 points. I just want to throw them out there. I'm not picking on anybody. But the first observation as a small business guy, we really don't have a fair democratic process in the state of Massachusetts because it's run by a majority of Democrats. And so the political back and forth is not there. It's all within the party. Second thing I like to talk about is we did get it. This is a tax, and we have the tax for the contribution to the family leave. All right? But in New Bedford, Fairhaven, Dartmouth, you have hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of illegal businesses, guys out on the road with no names on their trucks, not paying in any revenue at all to the system. Plus, they're driving down the price of the product in the area. So if they were legit, we're legit. So we already have new DOT regulations. We have this family health care regulation. We keep getting it, but yet it never goes back to the guys. And now you can go by the golf course across the street. There were some guys at the hotel filling in a hole, working out of a sissy van. There's some guy in New Bedford. He's got barrels in the back of his pickup truck. These are all people that need to contribute to the system and be done right. But there's no enforcement to bring these people into compliance, yet we get strapped with more and more and more. But what you're not realizing is that drives down the prices in the area, like New Bedford. The people, if they got the money, they're going to pay. But if you've got guys doing stuff on the side for half price, you're going to get more fraud, and you're not going to get a good job.
All right, let me tell you what. Let me hold you there because we're really up against the clock. Let me give the mayor a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what kind of fraud he's talking about. If it's,
I think he's talking about illegal labor that's
under the table payrolls or such. Yeah, I mean, there's, there are places to report that. The Insurance Fraud Bureau of Massachusetts is one of them. The State Department of Revenue is probably another one, but I'd probably go with the Insurance Fraud Bureau of Massachusetts. You should let the New Bedford Police know. I think that's also important, but. What can I say? We certainly don't condone fraud. We don't, people need to play by the rules.
All right, 508-996-0500. You're up next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Top of the afternoon to you. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Johnny Wano here.
How you doing, Johnny?
I'm good. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, two quick questions.
Yep.
Number one, I've noticed that in the north end of New Bedford, particularly on Cushing Avenue, you have these people who are setting up folding tables with umbrellas above them, selling cell phone services. Are they licensed to do that on the sidewalks in New Bedford?
Probably not. So if you see that, you should let the police know. And the police will go check it out.
Because it takes away from the people that are paying taxes for brick and mortar stores.
Absolutely. Where's that happening, Johnny? I haven't seen that.
It's up on the avenue. You usually see them like right on the corner.
Which corner?
You know, like around Bullard Street. You know, they're usually off of the avenue, right around the corner. And they got a little table set up with an umbrella on it. And I forget the name of they even have a tablecloth on it. It says the name of the company. You know, and they're selling cell phone services.
Yeah. So my guess is the same as yours, that they probably are not authorized to do that, and they don't have a permit.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be allowed. So just, if you see something, I'll just let everybody know. If you see something like that, let the police department know, and I'll pass along your message.
I'll be going on my way home in about an hour or so.
Okay.
And one more question. Mr. Mayor, do you own a motorcycle by any chance?
No, I don't think my wife would let me near one.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad, because I'd like to put you on the back of my motorcycle and ride you around the city so you can see just how bad some of these streets are around here.
Well, believe it or not, I do get out.
I know you do.
No, they are. Look, we are putting money into the streets after years of inadequate investment in all of our streets, and it's going to take some time. And we're committed to it. We've got a system in place. The system didn't exist before, and it bothers me all the time. I see the same thing, but you will see as the summer goes on, certainly, and into the fall, a lot more road work, and that'll continue on indefinitely because we have to be systematic in the way that we reinvest in roads. There's just no getting around it.
All right, Johnny, let me hold you there because I want to grab another one before we go to the news break. You're next in WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. If I'm not mistaken, the gentleman with those tables are registering people for Obama phones.
Yeah, I don't know. The police can check it out to see if it's legit.
Well, they'd be Trump phones now, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to call it that.
All right, my friend, I got to hold you right there. Appreciate it. And we are pretty much out of time. So
just like that.
Yeah,
you picked up the pace right at the end. Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of stuff to talk about. I still had some other stuff to get to, but we'll just save it for next week. That's all.
Sounds good.
So are you in the parade tomorrow?
I will be. I've got my waving hand on.
You get your waving. All right. Well, maybe see it, 'cause I think we're probably going to go check it out too.
Yeah, I think the weather will be good. Everybody should go out.
Yeah. And then now, how's this going to work with the Folk Fest though?
There'll be lots of people.
Yeah,
so
I guess.
Come on down.
So we'll go down Union Street?
If you live within walking distance, walk. Don't drive or ride a bike or ride a motorcycle.
There you go.
Right. So there you go. There's an opportunity. So yeah, people should come on out. It'll be a fun day tomorrow.
So you go down. Is it the parade goes down Union Street? Is it?
It does. It's not going to go all the way down because of the construction on Union Street. So it'll take a right, I think, on County, and then it'll go left down. I think it's School Street. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll turn on County Street.
Yeah.
So
right on County, and I think it's left on School.
So if you usually sit like around 8th Street or whatever, you don't want to do that now. You want to.
Right, you'll have to adjust.
There you go, adjust it.
You'll figure it out when you get there.
Mayor, appreciate it. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow, maybe. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to break. Rob Mellion from the Package Store Association is with us. We're going to talk about the Grand Bargain after this. Stay tuned.